All right, ladies and gentlemen. So we're back here again today with another video. Basically, Asmongold is back now, and a bunch of other people have weighed in on the whole level 58 boosting thing and the whole economic issues for classic TBC and so forth. So I decided that I probably should turn my brain on for the purposes of investigating a solution. Lord knows I've made videos already talking shit about like some of Stay Safe's videos and so forth and so on. Just people saying weird things about classic TBC in general. My only complaints, though, in many of those videos were I didn't really like their argument. Basically, it was like present to me a good argument, and so that I can actually work with that. So I didn't actually like their arguments, but Mad Season actually had some pretty good arguments. Um, Asmongold had pretty decent observations, but some of his observations are also kind of off. Mad Season got really close to a viable solution, but basically I just turned my brain on and decided, let's go look for some solutions. My background is socio-economic political philosopher, and any good socio-economic political philosopher, what we do is we actually, since we're required to solve a metric shit ton of problems in the IRL, MMORPG that is life and humanity in general, we tend to have a very long. We basically have a toolbox that is full of problem-solving techniques that are only applicable under very either in general or under very specific circumstances. So the solution technique that I decided to pull out of my ass on this one is known as distinctified multi-vessel template. We got it right up here as a little description of distinctified multi-vessel template. Basically, it just means that you go from having like very limited options to having more than just very limited options. So, for example, if we look over here at the actual solution proposal, you'll notice that I'm anticipating Blizzard for like Classic TBC might have something like 20 servers. But despite the fact that you have like 20 servers, you only technically have like two actual options for your server. And that is to take TBC the way Blizzard is going to present unto you TBC. And you get it either in a form of PvP or PvE, and that's literally it. Those are your only real options. So, despite the fact that you have a multi-vessel system, despite the fact that you have 20 different vessels, aka 20 different servers, you really only have two options. Another good analogy would be like if you went to a restaurant and you picked up a menu and they have like 120 different things on the menu, but it's all burgers or pasta. Basically is the idea. Maybe different variations of burgers or pasta, but it's just burgers and pasta, despite all the complexity. So what multi-vessel theory basically suggests is that if there's a demographic of desiring humanity that you're trying to make happy, and their desire is mutually exclusive with what you're trying to do, meaning that you can't have a system that caters to both their demographics and other demographics simultaneously, then the next best thing to do is to make a separate demographic just for them, be that a separate game entirely or be that separate systems within your game. An example would be like in PvE content, if certain demographics really like their PvE content easy, and then other demographics like their PvE content really hard, your options are to make two different games that cater to each of those genres, or you can just have like a hard mode and an easy mode within the confines of your game and attempt to cater to both those audiences. Both of those are examples of mutually exclusivity, but you're solving it via a multi-vessel system. You're creating multiple separate systems, multiple vessels to cater to a differing group. So currently what's happening in Classic TBC, as near as I can tell, is there's a group of people who really don't like the idea of the level 58 boosts for whatever reasons. Now, personally, I kind of understand economics because, socio-political economic philosophy is my background, but the concern is very real on the subject of economics, not because it's actually going to be a very big thing in TBC. In my personal opinion, I could be wrong. They made some rather good points. Mad Season did in his video at least. But the major issue here is that the vast majority of people don't understand economics, and so their concern is very palpable whether or not we can actually convince them that it's viable or not. Therefore, if there's any way for us to eliminate it, we might as well actually do it. The other things going on is that people are already concerned. Some people are already concerned the market is already completely ruined with all the gold level 58 boosts or not. Like all the body in classic World of Warcraft, all that wealth transferring over is just going to be completely bad in general. And this comes in the form of raw gold and then of course tradable items. So then there's another group of people that just really want a fresh classic server and a fresh TBC server for other reasons, such as on top of all this stuff, for other reasons, such as it being an even playing field again, and just blah 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 blah. Very very healthy for new players. Blah blah. Yeah. There's a bunch of reasons. A little bit smaller in demographics. Anyways, so the easiest solution for Blizzard. These are actually very easy problems for Blizzard to solve. And what they do is they set up the vast majority of their servers to be exactly what the hell they're trying to make them. You know, level 58 boosts, all your items transfer over from Classic World of Warcraft, yada, 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 right? But then what you should do is set aside at least 2 servers for each of these 2 types. One for PvP, the other one for PvE. And you literally just give them what the fuck they want. Okay? As long as what they want is not like super significant game changes, you just give it to them. And these are not super significant game changes. So, for example, you could have one PvP server and one PvE server where it's like all tradable items are deleted. The sheer act of you copying your character onto this server means all your tradable items are gone. So you don't have any gold sources from that. Get to keep all your gear. In theory, a piece of gear that is bind on equip, aka can still be tradable, would also be deleted under these circumstances, but it's like a copy type thing. So you get to keep all your gear, so that's pretty cool. All the gold is also deleted. You're right back to 0. I don't think anybody would be super bothered by this, to be perfectly honest. Anybody who's into this, into what this server is selling, won't be bothered by this at all. You might limit it to 100 gold, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, no, definitely delete it completely, because 100 gold per account can actually be a little, per character per account could be a problem. So yeah, 0 all the way. No, my bad. And then you give like no level 58 boosts whatsoever on this server. And whatever demographic this server is going to, the demographic of people who are going to play on this server are the demographic of people who are more than likely would not be playing TBC unless you literally made a PvP or a PvE server available for them to do just that. And then what you can also throw in here is you can do the same thing with a fresh classic TBC server where everyone just starts level 1, achieves all of the exact same things, and so forth and so on, and blah, 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 blah. Now, arguments against this that I can think of that might come to mind are like people would say something like, oh, well, you could start off like that, but the botting problem will just happen again, and in relatively short order, you'll just be back in the same problem. And the answer is not really. And I'll explain. That's a very good logical throughput argument, but then we added in a bunch of little details, and the argument starts to look much weaker. So, for example, first off, everybody who is gravitating towards these 2 types of servers are not the kind of player base that is interested in buying gold, right? Like, they just naturally don't like buying gold. So, whereas people might, like 30%, 40% of people might buy, 40% is super high, 30% of people might buy gold on a normal server. If you make a server like this, the people who are just naturally going to gravitate to either of these servers, like less than 10% of that population is going to be interested in buying gold. And if they are buying gold, it's probably like some weird desperation type scenario. And basically what I'm saying is, yeah, the botters could come on these servers, but there's very low demand for them to sell their wares on the server. And then it becomes very interesting to start disincentivizing that further. Like, Blizzard doesn't have to spend a lot of money or really do anything. For example, they could tell the community that they will be super psychotic about banning people who, like, they're going to be much more observant. Like, all of these special servers, we're going to be much more observant about people buying gold. And if you are found to be buying gold, we're going to ban the shit out of your account. So be prepared for that. But anyways, if you try to activate or make a character on this server, it might pop up a warning saying, hey, we're going to fucking do this. In reality, they don't do shit. Like, they don't increase their staff. They don't increase, like, anything on their end whatsoever. But the fear of it alone will greatly disincentivize people from even engaging on it on these servers, because like, oh, they're gonna be like, anyways. So botters aren't really going to want to be here too terribly much, because there's not a lot of demand here for them to actually sell to. You could do some scaremonger tactics as well to get that down even more. And then if you really hated botters on these servers, what you could do is make it so that nobody can transfer to the server. Um, that's not. Oh, yeah. How do I explain this? You can transfer to the server under these conditions, right? You lose all your tradable items, you lose all your gold, no 58 boost. So you're free to transfer to the server. But once you're on the server, the sheer act of leaving the server means that the exact same thing happens. All your gold is deleted, all your tradable items are deleted. And what that'll prevent is a army of bots showing up on this relatively fertile server, farming up a bunch of materials and then trying to transfer it off. It's not the fact that the bots are selling it to anybody on the server. It's the fact that they exist that would on the server that would probably bother them. So you don't even really need a extensive team of people like banning a bunch of bots or being too psychotic about bringing down the ban hammer on people that do buy gold on these servers. You kind of just have to scare them away like economically, if that makes any sense. So the other cool thing about these servers is that everyone who is willing to join these servers under these rather penalizing conditions are going to be a very like-minded community. So they're going to have a very strong social dynamic that will probably make them quite fun to play for these people. So anyways, very simple solutions on the table for Blizzard to solve these problems. Won't cost them a lot of money. Very effective. There's just pure money to be made here by doing this, is what I'm basically saying. It's like you're going to have literally like 30,000 more people playing the game that wouldn't be playing the game unless you section off these servers for them. And it'll also be a very nice way for Blizzard to kind of keep tabs on player demographics in general, since apparently they can't fucking do it just by sitting down and closing their eyes and using their goddamn imagination. I wonder what people would do. So what they could do is they just have these servers that are like different than everything else they're trying on the other servers, and if they're super fucking popular and overloaded with players, that kind of gives you an idea of what people want in demographically speaking. Another good example of this in action would be if you implemented stuff like this on modern retail servers. One second, let me make sure I'm still recording here. Yeah, okay. Am I recording? Stop recording? Okay, fine. If you implemented things like this on modern retail servers, okay, so imagine when a new expansion comes out, there are certain servers that are set aside that have certain things in the game that a sizable portion of the player base have just asked to go the fuck away for a long period of time. For example, you have like a modern, up-to-date expansion retail server that does not have looking for raid, it does not have looking for dungeon, it does not have group finder, it does not have just about anything that everybody doesn't, that a lot of people that like classic World of Warcraft don't like in their game. Oh, doesn't have phasing. So the server doesn't have phasing, it doesn't have group finder, it doesn't have raid finder. I suppose you could do maybe layering. Depends on how popular the server is, right? Blizzard wouldn't want to have like, I don't know. Some people do like the massive server size and the hustle and bustle. Like, I don't know, maybe you do like 2 layers or something like that for the server, or you just say fuck it. It's good. It's not going to have phasing or layering or any of that shit. None of the quality of life advantages whatsoever. It could even do other weird things like shop isn't available on this server. Blizzard might not go for that, but definitely a thing. And just see what happens. See how popular these servers are with all the amenities basically removed. What was it? There was something else that I wanted to remove from the server that I couldn't remember what the hell it is. But yeah, so might also be a good idea to incentivize certain player base, God, what's the word? Demographics, there we go, to come back to retail. Because a lot of retail players, they'd probably want to play retail, but they hate the game for certain reason. They hate phasing, they hate the antisocial thing, they hate how easy it is, they hate LFR, they hate LFD, they hate LFG, they fucking hate that shit. But they still want to play retail. And you can literally use this technique to accomplish that as well. All right, so basically, I'm going to end the video here on this problem-solving proposal, 15 minutes. I will make a quick observation about the source origin of this, like how it works, why it works, distinctified multi-vessel template or theory, or whatever. This is one of my very old philosophy videos where I'm looking to, and I'm still am to this day, I'm looking into using the theory primarily for real-world socio-political dynamics. So I'll press play here real fast. And basically what's happening is you start off with like a single vessel template in the proposal, and you got a bunch of different people that want a bunch of different things, and a lot of these things are mutually exclusive. And what's being pointed out in the video here right now is that if you just make a bunch of multi vessels, or a bunch of different vessels, like you have a bunch of different servers, or a bunch of different menu options, nothing changes because you haven't distinctified anything. This is why it's called distinctified multi-vessel, not just multi-vessel, because the sheer act of just adding multi-vessels does nothing. You literally have to distinctify the damn thing. So we flash forward here a little bit, and the only thing that's changed is now we're forcing distinctification on our vessels. We're basically saying that this server, or in this case, certain political states, are literally being set aside to specifically cater to certain political demographics in this case, but in World of Warcraft's case, it would be certain player-based demographics, right? So we're like, okay, this is going to be a server with a little change on the rules, a little different way of doing things, specifically catering to a group of people who like their classic WoW to be a little bit different than the other people. And what'll just naturally happen over time is human beings will just distinctify. So we can flash forward here a little bit. Oh, I guess I'll just wait for it. Okay, yeah, I see that. Thank you. So it should do the merger. Come on, do your fade. Stop talking. Okay, there we go. There's the fade. Right. So this just naturally happens. And a good analogy of this would be like, let's say a bus pulls up to an area where there's like a bunch of different restaurants, right? A bus full of people, a bunch of different restaurants. And everybody gets off the bus, and they're basically told that, hey, you can go to whatever restaurant you want. They got pizza, they got all the different ones, and they're very specialized, like, you know, hamburger restaurants, pizza restaurants, pasta restaurants, vegan food restaurants, whatever the fuck you want in Mexican food restaurants, all the different types of restaurants. Those people will naturally sort themselves out based upon their desire and go to the proper restaurants, if that makes any sense. But this is more of its effect under like political theory and science conditions. You don't really have this dynamic in, well, I guess it still does manifest. So in video game design, if you have, like, within the confines of your video game, you just have a bunch of different like, little vessels within the confines of your vessel, like, let's say raids. A good example would be when you're raiding and you get to choose various difficulties for your raiding. You get to do it really hard. You get to do normal, heroic, or mythic, right? The player base will naturally sort themselves out into what they like to do, the way they like to do it, if that makes any sense. So that's just a natural element of distinctification. Anyways, it's called distinctification multi-vessel because you need multiple vessels and they need to be made distinct in order to cater to basically, the template horrifyingly eliminates the issue of, I don't know why we human beings do this. We human beings try to make a single system, like a single video game or a single political system, and then we just try to make that single video game experience or that single political game experience just service all of humanity. You know what I mean? Like, oh, this game is going to be for everybody and everybody's going to love it. And no, that's not how it works. Like, mutual exclusivity and specialization tell you to go fuck yourself on this. So in this example, we've got an entire United States comprised of a bunch of different political groups, everybody desiring what it is. You'll notice that in the United States of America, we actually have a multi-vessel system already. We technically got like 51 different, like, basically independent countries that are stitched together with the federal government. But because there's no enforced distinctification, it just homogenizes just like this. You just get a homogenization of political desire within the United States. And when we use a distinctified multi-vessel template or theory in this case upon it, what should happen is we're setting aside certain states to be specifically be for certain political groups. And if we just wait here a second, we should, yeah, here we go. It literally just distinctifies. Now, it won't be this cut and dry, obviously. This is horrifyingly cut and dry. All these grayed out areas are, if I recall, are the politically apathetic. But they're just people who desire slightly differently. And this whole process has like massive advantages. It becomes very, very easy to cater to a group of people who likes pizza as opposed to anything else. So I guess the moral of the story is it's like, anyways, I wanted to explain for a second how it comes into just separate forms, how you can either, you're either doing like a separate vessel system. So, for example, with our bus analogy, our bus pulls up. You know, there's a bunch of different restaurants. Everybody gets out. The restaurants are distinct, and the people will they're multiple and they are distinct. So the people will just naturally sort themselves out accordingly. However, if you're trying to do this in the confines of a single system, like one restaurant to service them all, as opposed to like multiple versions of a video game to service the desires of humanity, or multiple restaurants to service the desires of humanity, if you're trying to get it all done within the confines of a single system, but you still want the advantages of multi-vessel, distinctified multi-vessel, then your restaurant's going to look like a buffet, right? And since this is a single country and we're trying to do a multi-vessel system within a distinctified multi-vessel system within the confines of a single country, then it will invariably look like a pick-and-choose political buffet, if that makes any sense. All right, other things that are absolutely necessary for the system in order to work is these arrows here basically mean freedom of movement. This is what happens as long as you're maintaining a state of freedom of movement, right? If there's not, if the population is not free to move, then this homogenization effect will not take place, if that makes any sense. So in our World of Warcraft example, you're free to come into these realms and you're free to leave these realms. Let me think. You might not be free to leave or come into this realm. Yeah. So the fresh TBC server, you would not be allowed to come in. You have to start a new level 1 character. I'm also not sure you're allowed to leave. If you do leave the fresh TBC server, more than likely all your gold gets deleted and all your tradable items get deleted as well in order to keep the bots down. Well, of course, one key element to all of this is the ability to for freedom of movement, both coming and going, ideally. Anyways, hope you enjoyed this video. I'm ending it here. I don't want to keep this one too long. I have a tendency to ramble, and we're going to try to keep this one short. Anyways, Deus Volt boys, hope that helps, and good luck. Wish you guys the best of luck in TBC. I probably won't be playing TBC, and yeah.